I'm here in Dubai, about to head to London on an Emirates A380 in business class. Now Dubai Airport is mostly open and pretty much back to its pre-Covid rush. All of the duty-free is open. However, many of the Emirates lounges remain closed and there are perspex separators between the seats in the main part of the terminal. With a business class ticket, I was about to head to the Emirates Dubai Business Class Lounge. It's a vast lounge on the top floor of the terminal. I actually went to the Dubai Emirates Business Class Lounge at Concourse 2 B gates. It's one of the most modern lounges. Coffee is provided by Costa Coffee, while the bar is run by Moët. There are some changes this year, thanks to Covid, but most of the facilities are there, even if they're shuttered away behind a thick wall of plastic. The lounge buffet is back at the Emirates Lounge, but you can't serve yourself. Instead, you have to stand behind the barrier and tell the lounge staff what you'd like to order. The selection is somewhat more basic than was on offer before Covid. Still, there are sandwiches, fruit and desserts, but they're now wrapped in plastic and served up on demand. At least the menu is pretty similar to what was on offer before Covid, but in somewhat reduced quantities. Of course, I made my way straight to the gold leaf covered Moët Chandon bar. It features over 2,400 gold leaves applied by hand and, depending on your aesthetic bent, is either artistically brilliant or a perfect example of Dubai bling. The self-service bar features 4 prestigious bottles: Moët Imperial, Rose Imperial, Chandon Grand Vintage and Nectar Imperial. I had a taste of the canapes too. The sweet and savoury menu has changed since before Covid and has a lovely smoked salmon wrapped in nori with wasabi mayonnaise to complement the Moët Chandon Grand Vintage 2006. There are also passion fruit and jasmine macaroons. They paired perfectly with the Moët. Finally, it was time to board the Emirates A380. I made my way down to the gate to find various checkpoints. Passengers had filled an arrival Covid test and the UK passenger locator form was correctly filled out. In business class, the Emirates A380 has fully flat beds which are a delight. They're wider than the Boeing 777 and they offer much more privacy, plus a minibar. The Emirates Airbus A380-800 aircraft have unusual seats. Half of the seats are just a little bit shorter than the others, thanks to an unusual staggered design. All of Emirates business class seats are located in 2 cabins on the upper deck. There's a front cabin which contains the bulk of the seats in 14 rows, while the cabin located at the rear of the plane has a much more cosy feel, as there are only 4 rows, although it's also quite close to the bar, which, depending on whether you plan to make several visits, is either good news or a hindrance. In front of each seat is a large 17-inch entertainment touchscreen. You can control the touchscreen by pressing on it, if you can reach it that is. However, it's much more convenient to control it by the tablet at your seat. On the A380 there are the joys of no less than 3 TV controllers. Along with the main screen, each seat in the business class cabin has a touchscreen tablet, which is a detachable controller and large enough to show a separate screen such as a moving map. Emirates call this the mode controller, and you can use this to adjust your seat, lighting controls and browse through the in-flight entertainment list, or even use it as a second screen, for example displaying an external aircraft camera or the moving map while watching something else on the big screen. The tablet can also be unlocked and released from its dock to display content and control the seat and IFE wirelessly. That's very handy if you're adjusting your seat while standing up. Well, we had welcome drinks of juice and champagne, but unfortunately there weren't amenity kits. They're only available on overnight flights. Instead, there are toothbrushes in the bathrooms. Alas, Emirates has cut down on the meal service and only one meal is now served in business class as opposed to the previous two. This is served shortly after takeoff. On this flight in Emirates business class, there was a decent menu available and the food was well described with 4 main choices. Kicking off with the starter options, there was mushroom soup, Arabic meze or smoked salmon. The crew offered me the cocktail and wine list and suggested I might like to take a drink at the bar before lunch was served. Our route today was straight up through Iraq, then over Turkey, finally over Germany and Belgium to get to London Heathrow. The business class seats are arranged in a 1-to-1 layout, providing each passenger with direct aisle access and a significant amount of privacy. Each seat faces to the front, however, when sliding into a flat and level bed, it slips into the minibar pod in front. Consequently, the aisle seats, so the B, D, G and J, have a shorter 70-inch bed. The window and middle seats, A, E, F and K, are longer with a 79-inch bed. That 9 inches makes all the difference. Unfortunately, I found one of the weakest elements about the Emirates experience is the in-flight entertainment program, which is called ICE, or Information, Communications and Entertainment. There are dozens of films and TV box sets listed, but it must be said finding anything worthwhile can be a bit of a struggle. There are 3 cameras installed in the tail, nose and belly of the A380, so you can see exactly where you are. Next to the seat there's a mains power socket plus a USB port and a reading light. The fold-out tray table is hidden in the armrest below the console. Noise-reducing headphones are provided. They're not quite the best, but they're pretty decent. Emirates offer free onboard Wi-Fi if you're a member at any level of Skywards, and even those without status can enjoy the free messenger services in business class. As a gold member, it's worked quickly and well. There's also a paid service at $20 for the flight. An amenity kit is only provided during night flights. With a day flight, only a small packet with a toothbrush was provided. This is one of the only occasions where a flight into Dubai, particularly on a Boeing 777, was better. There was a huge wash bag amenity kit. I started off with a breakfast martini. This was served with warm nuts. On this flight, the crew really couldn't do enough. They went the extra mile, suggesting dishes to try, offering cocktails, and even a trip to the bar throughout the flight. It was really amazing seeing the difference compared to the night flight I'd had into Dubai. The crew kept on suggesting I try out the in-flight bar and the canapes that they were serving at the bar. They also suggested I try a cocktail flight, sampling a few in-flight cocktails to find out which ones I prefer. Emirates offers some fantastic wine on board, and indeed it's won numerous awards for its wine cellar program in business class. Moët 2008 was the standout champagne on board, but other wines included the Cloudy Bay Sauvignon Blanc, with a silky texture and with a persistent tangy stone and fruit flavour. There was also a whole dozen Chardonnay and a Tuscany from 2015. Instead, I tried out the champagne, which was perfectly chilled as we head up the Gulf towards Baghdad. Then the meal service began, and I went for the smoked salmon with lemon bellinis and cucumber. Light and delightful, it was just right for late summer and full of flavour. There was a small side salad too, which was completely different from my flight from Sydney, with lots more flavour and different types of lettuce. Lunch came with garlic bread and was pretty much the same as you would expected pre-pandemic. Next up was a main course, and options included seared beef tenderloin, bizarre chicken, salmon, or a chicken and cheese sandwich. I went for the bizarre chicken in an Arabic spice marinade on rice with onions and pistachios. This was okay with lots of flavour, but was perhaps a little bit of a simple dish for business class. For dessert, there was a wonderful tart, and I followed it with the fruit and cheese boards. Spanish cheese, Rhone Alps cheese, and also British cheese, Stevenson Stilton, made in Leicestershire using local cow's milk. Coffee and chocolates were offered as soon as I was finished, and I was offered a decent port to go with it. Graham's port from 1995 went with a cheese board. About halfway through, the flight attendants came round offering ice cream. Live TV was supposedly available on board the flight, but unfortunately didn't work on this aircraft. You can also order sandwiches at any time during the flight, also available on the counter in the in-flight bar. Beer is available, including Tiger and Leffe Blonde. You can either order your seat or go up to the in-flight bar. My favourite thing about flying on business class on Emirates on their A380 aircraft is the bar at the rear of the upper cabin. There's only access to first class or business class cabins, and on many London-bound flights it becomes a hub of activity throughout the flight. You can choose from premium spirits, wines, champagnes, cocktails and beers, along with hot and cold drinks. There's a dedicated bartender. The bar is still open despite COVID restrictions. There's also a vast TV screen in the bar, and often this shows live sports. Alas, Emirates have revamped the rear lounge, and instead of a bench seat on one side, there's a large table with 2+2 seating. I found this wasn't quite as sociable. The bar was fully stocked for a full flight with a full load of canapes, but as the crew explained, there are only 10 passengers in business class, so the few passengers in the lounge were offered all the canapes to taste towards the end of the flight. At the in-flight bar, the crew also offered to mix me up as many cocktails as I'd like to taste. At did of course just strictly taste them just to see which each one was like. I tried the mojito with Barbican rum muddled with fresh lime, mint, sugar and topped with a splash of soda. Absolutely lovely. Also tried a cosmopolitan. And then I tried an old-fashioned with Woodford Reserve Bourbon, Augusta Bitters, Vermouth. And here we are coming into London Heathrow. It may be late October, but it was a lovely summer day. .25 or 26 degrees. Here we are landing on 26 right. So would I recommend Emirates in business class flying from Dubai to London? Well, yes, a wholehearted definitely. The A380 is a wonderful aircraft. The crew were fantastic. The food was very, very good. But the standout experience, as always on Emirates, is that walk-up bar at the end of the aircraft. Just being able to get up, stretch your legs, talk to a few other passengers, that makes all the difference.